Welcome to Half 2-4. Today in the show, true transfer madness in the Premier League. Elliot Anderson has already agreed a contract with Manchester City until 2031. A transfer paradox at the Camp Nou. Why did Barcelona grudge 30 million for Rashford, but is ready to lay out 85 for Gordon? Also today, Florentino Perez is preparing a sensational sale of Real Madrid right after the elections, while meanwhile David Beckham has officially become a billionaire and is finalizing the transfer of Casemiro to Inter Miami via a clever scheme where on paper he receives less than $2 million and behind the scenes a cosmic 88 million. We talk about all this and much more right now. David Beckham, billionaire. Officially, Forbes confirmed. The man who was booed by the whole world after the red card at the 1998 World Cup is now in the club of the richest people on the planet. Wealth over $1 billion. And this is not football. This is business. Let us get to the point. In 2020, Beckham used an option in the contract with MLS and received the right to found a club for $25 million. A fixed price, which he agreed back in 2007 when he was signing the contract with Los Angeles Galaxy. That is, he literally negotiated this 13 years in advance. Who else thinks like that? And do you know what is most interesting? Today, Inter Miami is valued at $1.4 billion. From $25 million to $1.4 billion, ROI 1,100% in 6 years. This is not an investment, this is a legend, and now attention. The key moment this is, of course, Messi. The partnership with Apple and Netflix gave the club a global reach, and the arrival of Messi in 2023 made Miami not just an MLS club, but a world brand. Add here Suarez, Busquets, Alba, and you get a club, followed by the whole world. Beckham built not just a team, he built a show. And here now to this club, the billion-dollar club of Beckham, goes Casemiro. As a free agent, almost for nothing from a financial point of view. But this is already a separate story, which we will tell about in detail right now. The transfer series around the future of Casemiro is officially closed, and the Brazilian is already packing suitcases to sunny Florida. The five-time Champions League winner leaves Manchester United in the status of a free agent, having played his last match against Nottingham Forest. The most authoritative insiders of the world, led by Fabrizio Romano and Tom Bogert from The Athletic, in one voice confirmed the move to Inter Miami is unavoidable, meaning it can be considered practically closed. Even the future teammate of the Brazilian, Telasco Segovia, has already accidentally leaked this scoop to journalists, directly stating that the 34-year-old defensive midfielder is coming to them. Casemiro firmly chose exactly the American project of David Beckham, turning down insane bags of money from Saudi brands, because he wants to close all legal matters before the start of the 2026 World Cup, where he was called up by Carlo Ancelotti into the squad of the Brazil national team. But now attention, because here begins the true higher mathematics of the American football business. In fact, the bosses from Florida are forced to spin crazy backroom schemes due to the strict regulations of MLS. Firstly, the management of Miami had to pay around $400,000 of compensation to the club Los Angeles Galaxy, which had the primary discovery rights for the player within the United States. Ahead is an even bigger headache. All three designated player slots are occupied in the team, where Lionel Messi, Rodrigo de Paul, and German Berterame sit under the salary cap. Because of this, the official salary of Casemiro, according to the documents of the league for the first half of the year, will amount to a modest less than $2 million a year. A similar trick was previously pulled off here with Jordi Alba. But do not worry about the poor Brazilian, who in England was receiving around $26 million. Insiders from OneFootball claim that behind the scenes, the real earnings of the player can reach a cosmic $88 million a year. This money trickles past the official limit thanks to a unique commercial package. Casemiro will receive a direct percentage from new international Apple TV subscriptions and shirt sales from Adidas, and local corporations of Florida have already prepared separate advertising contracts for him. My opinion? This is an absolutely brilliant managerial move from Beckham and a pure salvation for the team. The acting head coach 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗘 receives a luxurious and ironclad replacement for Sergio Busquets, who ended his career at the end of 2025. Inter Miami is currently leading the league in goals scored, but has catastrophic trash in defense, having conceded the most in MLS after quick counterattacks of opponents. Casemiro will become that very iron surgical anchor that will burn out the defensive zone and bring order there. Legally, he will play for pennies, but factually, his account will be replenished twice as fast as in Manchester. And what do you think, friends? Will Casemiro be able to close the problem zone in the United States straight away? Or will the American pace after a hard season in the Premier League turn out to be too exhausting? Leave your comments. A week ago, Everton was sure Grealish is returning to them on loan, and now this certainty has crumbled because Maresca wants to talk to Grealish personally, and this conversation can change everything. Let us look at the facts. Everton was planning a meeting with the players' camp back in April to discuss a second loan. Everything looked logical. Guardiola stays, Grealish is not needed by him, Everton waits. But then Guardiola announced his departure, and the picture changed instantly. According to information from the Mirror, Maresca plans personal negotiations with Grealish. The new coach believes that the 30-year-old winger can be a part of City's future. Not a ballast, not a problem, but a full-fledged player of the new system. And do you know what is most interesting here? Maresca at Chelsea love technical players with the ball at their feet. Grealish is exactly that type. Guardiola was gradually ceasing to see a place for him in his scheme. Maresca is a completely different person with a different vision. And now, attention, this is where Everton is in a difficult situation. The club was already mentally preparing for his return, building plans, and now it waits for the decision of the player on which it no longer has any influence. For Grealish, this is the best news in 2 years. Not a loan to a mid-table side, but a chance to rehabilitate himself where everything went wrong. Maresca gives him an opportunity to prove that the problem was in the coach and not in the player. If Grealish is healthy and motivated, I would use this chance, because there will not be a second one like it. A transfer bomb flew in from where it was not expected. The sporting director of the Catalans, Deco, pulled off a secret special operation in London, and now Barcelona is conducting direct official negotiations with Newcastle regarding the transfer of the main diamond of the England national team, Anthony Gordon. While Bayern and Liverpool were slowly counting their budgets, the Catalan boss personally convinced the 25-year-old winger to choose exactly the project of Hansi Flick. Anthony himself got so fired up by this idea that he has already publicly set his priorities. Only Camp Nou and period. Insiders of Mundo Deportivo and Fabrizio Romano shout in one voice the Magpies are forced to sell the leader this summer due to the tight vises of financial fair play, so the Blaugranas are trying to close the deal as quickly as possible. And now we unfold this tactical and financial context layer by layer. Firstly, the guy delivered a simply phenomenal season, racking up 17 goals and 5 assists, of which as many as 10 goals he bagged in the Champions League. Flick sees in Gordon a universal weapon capable of closing both the position of the left winger and playing through the middle of the attack, which for the Catalans, with their financial difficulties, is a true lifebuoy. Secondly, Newcastle is in an ironclad negotiating position. His contract is valid until June 2030, therefore the management of the Magpies set a tough price tag of 85 million euros and does not intend to take less. And do you know why they hold on so tightly to every penny? It turned out that during the first transfer from Everton, the Merseysiders propped in a clever clause. They will receive 15% of the net profit from the next sale of Anthony. And know what? While this episode was being edited, Fabrizio Romano issued 2 consecutive urgent scoops that completely changed the rules of the game. Firstly, Barcelona and Anthony Gordon reached a 100% full agreement regarding personal contract terms. The Englishman agreed to all points. Secondly, the Catalans are not just conducting negotiations, they want to close the transfer already by the end of this week. The management of the Blaugranas is currently in maximum confidence. Deco conducts direct club-to-club bargaining with Newcastle around a total package in the region of 80 million euros. And right now, everyone is waiting only for the final green light from the bosses of the Magpies. In fact, 𝗗𝗘𝗡𝗘 and company are deliberately going for a crazy preemptive strike in order to beat the offers of the Premier League clubs and Bayern, which are still conducting active backroom work. Barca itself initially valued the Englishman at 60 million euros and tried to break the installments over years, while the financially more stable Bayern was already giving 70 million euros, and German and English clubs were ready to bargain up to 80 million. But these 80 million euros from Catalonia, which appeared on the negotiation table right now, are a real all-in. I think this story is a litmus test of whether the modern Barcelona is capable at all of truly competing for top transfers. No Englishman at the peak of his career leaves the Premier League for Spain just like that, and for Anthony, this is a big risk. But wanting to play at the Camp Nou and actually laying out around 80 million euros are completely different things. If Deco still presses this deal in a matter of days, it will be the main managerial triumph of the club in recent years. However, if the Magpies at the last moment close the door in front of him due to the payment format, Munich or the Premier League clubs will punish instantly. It seems to me we have already seen similar series, but this final is being written right before our eyes. Friends, if you watched up to this moment, then subscribe to the channel. It is not hard for you, and it is pleasant for us. And while you are subscribing, we move further. And now hold a true transfer paradox, from which the fans of the Catalans are already starting to frankly melt. While Deco conducts negotiations in London regarding Anthony Gordon, Marcus Rashford found himself in the shadow of this mega deal. Authoritative British insiders from The Athletic and Sky Sports assert in one voice, if Barcelona still presses Newcastle and signs Gordon, the transfer of Rashford on a permanent basis will be officially and definitively buried. The Catalans simply physically will not pull two elite English wingers, neither by the transfer budget nor by the salary cap of La Liga. The year 2026 can become a point of no return for Marcus, because his luxurious stage in Spain risks to suddenly break off. Let us get to the point, because the situation looks absolutely absurd. Rashford has just played a gorgeous season at the Camp Nou on loan from Manchester United, completely adapted to the league, and brought the team a crazy 14 goals and 14 assists. The coach personally gave the management the green light for his buyout, and insider Mateo Moretto confirmed that the player himself, for the sake of Catalonia, agreed to a gigantic slash of his salary by 40% and is ready to sign a contract until 2032. The Mancunians give him away for a ridiculous 30 million euros just to close the matter. And right here, the trash begins. Barcelona grudges these 330 million with a single check and asks for another loan. Manchester United says no, the stalemate drags on, and this is already being used by Aston Villa, which has put forward an official offer regarding the buyout of the player. That is, a ready, proven performer for next to nothing the club risks to basely lose simply because of the unwillingness to sign a paper on time. The logic of the Catalans is phenomenal. 30 million for an adapted top winger is too expensive, but 85 million for a new one, let us talk. But still, I think all this managerial chaos has a tactical basis under it from the coach. Rashford spent a brilliant year as a free artist, but for his vertical system, a ruthless pressing monster is needed, who burns the field from flag to flag and is ready to work his socks off in the defensive phase. Gordon is exactly such a systematic and durable warrior, hardened by the hellish pace of the Premier League. The board of directors is ready to sacrifice the profitable Marcus to give the German his ideal tactical tool. However, if they overpay threefold, turn their pockets inside out, and the new player does not work out, Deco will definitely not be forgiven for this step. And what do you think, friends? Is it worth giving up the proven Rashford after a season of 14 plus 14 for the sake of the wildly expensive football player of the Magpies? Or is this pure foolishness of the management? While United was afraid to even think about such numbers, City made a move that could become the loudest transfer of the Premier League this summer. Pep Guardiola left, concluding a great era, and the new boss of the citizens, ENZO MARESCA, signed a contract for 3 years and immediately received the task of a lifetime to take Elliot Anderson from Nottingham Forest. Between City and the 23-year-old midfielder, there is already an agreement in principle, a luxurious contract all the way until 2031. Over £110 million for this guy is not just an investment in the future, it is a purchase of a ready-made superstar who is worth every penny and is capable of guaranteeing a result here and now on his own. This is where the real trash begins. Anderson got to Forest in 2024. Newcastle, due to financial fair play rules, hurriedly sold him for £35 million without any protective clauses, and coach Eddie Howe later openly called it the theft of the decade. He did not exaggerate. This season, Anderson delivered an absolute space in the toughest league of the world, becoming the best in the Premier League by the number of accurate passes. His radio-controlled deliveries and splendid performances for the England national team of Thomas Tuchel prove the guy is ready for pressure of any scale. With a market value at €60 million and a contract until June 2029, the owner of the Foresters, Evangelos Marinakis, set a wild price tag of €145 million for the leader. United immediately passed before this price war, considering the sum crazy, but City clearly understands what unique quality it is bargaining for in order to close the hole in the center of the field after the departure of Bernardo Silva. My conclusion here is unambiguous. This is a transfer masterclass. City takes proven quality for its new system. As if Pep, leaving the club, wrote a note to Maresca, sign Anderson and everything will be fine. His unique vision of the field and ability to orchestrate the game, this is exactly what will save the team during the change of eras. The real value of the deal after negotiations will make somewhere between 100 and 120 million. And if the citizens close this move, they will close the position for years ahead with a player who from the very first round will start to deliver results. On the 7th of June 2026, Real Madrid conducts presidential elections, which for the first time in the last 20 years will go with a real rival. And if Florentino Perez gains a total rout with a result of 80 or 90% of the votes of the socios, he plans to immediately begin the sale of the club's shares to outside investors. Yes, you did not mishear. This is the main bomb of world football that exploded right now. The edition Voz Populi and the source Madrid Zone confirmed that the voting will begin at 9 in the morning and end at 20 o'clock in the evening local time. Perez needs this total victory in order to obtain absolute legitimacy, call an extraordinary assembly, and conduct a referendum to change the historic ownership model of the Blancos. Behind the scenes, this crazy project is being promoted by his right hand, Anas Lagrari, and competition for Perez in the elections will be made by an ambitious 37-year-old businessman and head of the energy company Cox Energy, Enrique Riquelme, who has already directly stated these could be the last elections at Real Madrid, because after them, privatization will come. And now let us break this down a little more contextually, because here hides the main question. Why sell Real Madrid at all, if it is the most profitable sports organization on the planet? Let us start with numbers. The Royal Club tops the world revenue rating from Deloitte for 3 seasons in a row. Over the past period, the Madrid side earned €1,161 million, and for the current financial year, they completely set an absolute world record, crossing the mark of €1,200 million. Commerce alone brought €594 million. Plus, a contract with Emirates until 2031 guarantees €74 million per season, and new negotiations with Adidas should raise the cost of sponsorship on the shirts to a cosmic €300 million. Even despite the fact that the team under the leadership of Alvaro Arbeloa reached only the quarterfinals of the Champions League, revenues from the stadium amounted to €233 million, and proportional profits from the summer performance of the club of Xabi Alonso at the Club World Cup are still trickling into the cash box. And do you know what is most interesting? Technically, we are talking about a sale of 5 to 10% of the shares through the creation of a new commercial subsidiary company. This is already the second economic lever of Perez after he sold 20% of the profits of the Santiago Bernabeu to the company's 6th Street and Legends for 360 million euros. Now he plans to attract from the outside from 500 million to 1 billion euros. Perez himself says that if someone is ready to pay such mad money for a symbolic share, this is the best confirmation of the value of Madrid. I think Perez sells Real Madrid not because money is needed, but because it is power. A strategic investor for €1 billion is not a shareholder, it is an ally. On a level where not clubs play anymore, but states and funds. Perez builds not just a football club, he built a corporation. On the 7th of June, we will find out whether the members of the club will support him in this. Friends, if you like the episode, then do not grudge a like and subscribe.